We are rolling. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the weekly Daily podcast. It's good to be here. It's a nice, beautiful Sunday, almost summer, not quite. Technically, summer, I think, is June 21st, but it's been hot. And I'm starting off with your typical weather report here in Denver, Colorado, guys. Very hot. I slept in today. It's been a very hectic, busy, fun, but somewhat chaotic in a good way last week or so. So it's been this weekend I've been catching up on sleep. I was very tired up until, I've been very tired just trying to catch up on sleep. And it's hard to sleep in when it's very hot outside. And, I do have AC, but there's just like a different heat that comes through the windows. I want to try to get a run in, but my Achilles, Achilles or Achilles? Achilles sounds aggressive with kill in there, but I think I might have tweaked it. It's not injured. Well, I don't know. It's one of those, you guys ever have this where you have like such a slight feeling of a body part being tweaked that it gets in your head and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm injured or if there's a little thing going on or if it's just in my head. Because I've tried to run the last couple days and I feel I think I feel a slight thing in my right Achilles. And it's not like a super painful thing, but when you're running, it's like, all right, that's the Achilles is very much being activated and used. And then it gets in your head like, what if it is a little strained and I'm running on it? And then I start running with a different gait, I think, as they say, a different form. I'm kind of like taking pressure off of my right leg and kind of like a slight limp almost in my run. So then it's putting more pressure on my left leg, which then makes it more, the left leg more susceptible to injury. So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated. I do want to, I've been in a good routine of exercise and running and cardio. And so I'm kind of feeling it out, seeing if it is an injury I need to be careful about or if it's just in my head. But either way, whether it is something I need to take a break on running for a little bit or not, I'll have to just figure out some other good exercises to do. But anyways, thank you guys again for joining. It's been a busy last week, like I said, and it's been fun, though. I did the last podcast in Salt Lake City. I think I did... I had been there for a couple days, maybe a day and a half, 2 days at that point, and was doing some talk about Salt Lake City. A lot of positive stuff. In the sense of just the limited experience that I had there. We stayed in a nice Airbnb apartment complex, which was very nice. We roamed around the city, very clean, very nice, and I gave a lot of kudos to it. And I recorded that podcast, I think, on Monday. And then over the next couple of days, got a little bit more exposure to the city. And just like any city you go to, sorry, I'm really smacking my lips together and swallowing here. I've got these allergies are just killing me. And so I'm like, I've just got congestion there. I'm swallowing internal snot that's like seeping down internally from my nose to my throat, which, yeah, that's gross. TMI. I'm sorry, guys. You also probably have allergies, and it's infuriating. It's infuriating because this is my favorite time of the year. Spring, going into summer, my absolute favorite. Hands down, not even close. And to be struggling through with allergies, to have a body that can't handle, what are we doing out here? Humans have evolved for thousands and hundreds of whenever. I don't know. I'm not going to go on a tangent about where humans may have come from and the Anunnaki, which I've listened to a lot recently, which is an interesting theory, but I digress. I'm not going to go down that path. It's weird that we have evolved over time, adapted to our environment, whatever is happening, and we still can't handle pollen. What are we doing, dude? These little pretty flowers out here are crippling us as a nation. What is happening? I don't like it. I've been taking Claritin every day for a month. Yeah, hey, Claritin, you stink, okay? Why don't you work? All right, why am I even taking these pills if you ain't going to do nothing, Claritin D? I got to switch brands. You know what, Claritin? If you're listening, I don't like you. Okay, I'm gonna try out Zyrtec, or I don't know. I don't know the other brands, but Claritin D, I've given you money and you have not given me health and a clear nose. So that's pretty disappointing. But the allergies have been bad. To be fair, which this is not a defense of Claritin because I'm upset that you're not working. It's been a long time taking you. You should be working at this point. But to be fair to Claritin, or just to be clear, I have bounced around quite a bit. I was traveling around the country and driving around for that tour that I did a couple weeks ago, and then going to Salt Lake City, and then coming here. I think putting yourself in different environments with different pollen just confuses your body and makes it difficult to handle. I don't know. I used to think that I had a very strong body, and I still think that I try to take care of myself with exercise and healthy foods and all these things, but some things you just can't defeat. And a little tulip out there really tapping me out at this point. But in Salt Lake City, like I said, I talked about how I was like, oh, it's very nice. And it is very nice. I mean, the city is very clean. It's very nice, kind of new architecture. It was, I was there a week ago, so it was like everything was spring vibes as far as flowers and landscaping and just sunny days, nice weather, roaming around. Gives a positive light to the city. But on, I can't remember if it was Monday night or Tuesday night, went out with my girlfriend Dailey to a Mexican restaurant. We walked there. It was like a mile. It was maybe like 3/4 of a mile from our Airbnb. And it was funny because I had just talked about like, wow, dude, this city is very nice and like clean and this and that. And we walked to this Mexican restaurant, which is like super popular, apparently. They have 2 locations within like 2 blocks of each other. So it's like, oh, they're so busy and doing so well. They're like, we're going to just make another location 2 blocks away. Instead of, a lot of places they'll expand and they'll be like, all right, we've got a restaurant in this neighborhood, and then we're going to go across the city and have another one to get that market. They're like, no, we just have too many people at this location. Let's find a building for rent as close as possible. But we walked there, and it was, and I feel like probably a lot of cities are like this, but essentially we had to cross the train tracks. So most of, literally, the apartment that we were in, backed up behind it was the railroad tracks. So we kind of walked down the railroad tracks and then got to the closest like overpass, and then walked directly over the railroad tracks. And essentially, as soon as you walk over the railroad tracks, you're like, oh, this is a very different vibe. And it was pretty sketchy in that area, which, look, here in Denver, in any city, you have pockets like that. So I'm not trying to sound like naive, like, oh my gosh, it wasn't like perfect Mormon wealthy city area. It was just like a very different vibe. And I mean, you could see, some homeless people, some drug use, some rundown buildings. I mean, yeah, you guys get it. You guys have walked around in cities and places and gone, this is nice, and then walked around other places and gone, this makes me feel afraid a little bit. I wasn't afraid, but Delina and I were walking around and we went to this Mexican restaurant. And it was very busy, so they were like, it's going to take 45 minutes to get you in. And so we were like, let's just walk around for a little bit. And we walked like a block away, and Delina and I mean, we just looked at each other and we're like, yeah, let's not get too far from here. This is a little scary. But I told her, I was like, I'll defend us. I know I'm like not huge, but I will. In situations like that, and look, to be fair, I've never really been in a dangerous situation where you're walking around and somebody like legitimately. I've been in plenty of like awkward, where you're like, hey, something could happen. But fortunately, knock on wood, nothing has happened. But in a lot of situations like that, especially when you're in public, you just you gotta peacock. You gotta out crazy somebody. Like if somebody's coming up and they're kind of like giving the vibes of like, hey, I'm about to do something, you just gotta out crazy them. And oh boy, will I do that. Because at the end of the day, like, that's all you can, like, you kind of have to do that. If they're coming at you like, hey, I'm about to do something, then you just go, I'm an insane person and I'm making a scene right now, and everybody in public's going to be looking at us because I'm shouting crazy stuff. Because that's like your last line of defense before, if that doesn't work, then it's like, well, then we're getting physical and fighting. It's like, I don't want that, so I'm just going to act like a crazy person. I'll act insane. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that. I mean, it wasn't ever close to that. Just you're roaming around and you're like, okay, people see us and they're probably like, oh, they roamed into a different neighborhood outside of their territory, and maybe we will take advantage of them. But I've lived abroad. I've lived in places. I'm very conscious of just situations where you need to be mindful of like, hey, don't just have your phone out and be looking at it and roaming around with like, you just got to be smart and just keep an eye out. If you see something sketchy, keep a distance. Don't turn your back to, somebody or a situation where you're like, okay, maybe they're going to approach you. Just be mindful, be smart. I will run if I need to run. And I will defend myself if I need to defend myself. Okay? Which is funny when people say that, because it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you're being attacked and it's like a life or death situation, hopefully you try to defend yourself. I guess there's probably some people out there, maybe they just curl up in the fetal position and go, you got me. Which I guess is also, I mean, the assumption we're not like actual animals in the sense that if we're being attacked, like if you're in the wild and somebody, if you're a zebra and a lion attacks you, it's like, yeah, this isn't like he's trying to shake me down for my zebra money. It's like he's eating me and I'm gonna die if I don't defend myself or try to run. That's not most of the situations if you're being attacked. So I guess there is a case for like, okay, well, I just submitted and gave my money and they went away and I was physically unharmed. They just took my wallet. But I'm a stubborn person and I don't want you to take my wallet. So I've really gone off on a tangent here. My point is, went to this Mexican restaurant, and it was a very different vibe in Salt Lake City. So now that I've gotten a full spectrum of Salt Lake City, it is very nice in the downtown area and on that side of the train tracks and up as you go to the Capitol and the neighborhoods around there. And then up in the foothills and the mountains, it's very beautiful. It's very nice. But there are sections, just like any city, where you're like, okay, they don't have as much money here. So we ate at that Mexican restaurant, which was pretty good. It was like very highly rated, and I thought it was going to be better. It was fine. I got green chili, what do you call them? Enchiladas. My stomach hurt after that. It always hurts after Mexican food. It always hurts after most food. That's just the life I live. So had that. Walked back, felt very uncomfortable, stomach wise, not safety wise. It was fine, but did that, and then Tuesday we went to the Salt Lake Bees. That was their minor league baseball team. They were playing. I don't even remember who they were playing. To be honest, I wasn't. Baseball, it's like a fun activity to do, but I can't remember who they were playing. I was watching the game, but it was there's a lot of stuff going on, and I guess I wasn't that focused on who they were playing. They also have like the Rockies. I've been there, and the professional major league teams, they just have like bigger scoreboards and stuff like that, so you can see all the people on there. And this one, they had like a scoreboard. It was for a minor league game. It was very filled out, especially for like a Tuesday, and it was a pretty nice stadium. And we went and hung out there. I don't know. I bought some seats there where I was like, this is foul ball territory. I was very excited. I was like, I'm going to get a foul ball. I really tapped into my childhood excitement, being like, dude, if I get a foul ball, that will complete this trip. Getting a souvenir, a $6 scuffed up baseball, that will complete this visit to Salt Lake City. But where we sat, it was like in the foul ball territory, like in the outfield, but off of first base. So for all the right-handed batters, if they, foul it, that's probably the direction it's going. But what I didn't realize when I bought the tickets is there was like a second level above us, which then kind of prevented any chance of a foul ball coming to us because it was blocked by the upper deck. So any foul ball would go to the people above us. But also, too, where I chose the seats, which it's funny because you buy the tickets and there's like, here's 1,000 different spots you can choose, and you have to choose the specific seats. And so then it's like, all right, well, I'm assuming all these are basically fine or whatever. So I picked two that were right beside the walkway. I was thinking, and by walkway I mean like the steps. Whatever you take the steps down, and then you have seats to the left, and then you have seats to the right, and there's like 20 seats there. And I was like, I don't want to pick the middle because then if we get up to grab food or drinks or whatever, you have to get through people sitting there. It's just obnoxious. So I got the ones right beside I'm blanking on the name of this. Right beside the stairway, whatever you call it. And what I didn't realize, or what I didn't think about, is like the whole game, people are walking up and down, grabbing stuff, and it's just blocking the view of the baseball game and the batter. So that was it wasn't a huge deal, but it was kind of like, oh wow, this is, people are walking down and then they're just stopping right in front of me and they're like chatting and they're like, where are our seats? Or like, let's take a picture or this and that. And I was starting to feel some vibes of grandpa on the porch type stuff, be like, get out. What are you doing? Get out of here. Move it along. But, yeah, nope, didn't get any foul balls. It was a great weather. It was hot. It was good, fun experience. You go in and visit a city and get to do a little thing like that. It's cool. Got some barbecue at the place there. It was whatever. It was brisket, and it was fine. It was what you would expect. It wasn't anything good, but it was dinner, and they had coleslaw and watermelon, which was pretty good. I'm trying to think if anything exciting happened at the game. Not really. They did a little fruit and vegetable race. I will say this. I have noticed that the minor league teams that I've gone to see for baseball, which is very limited, but I've saw this game, my hometown of Lynchburg, Virginia. They have the Lynchburg Hillcats. They do a lot more like in between innings kind of fun stuff. Whereas the Rockies games I've gone to here in Colorado, it's not as Like, they're not shooting t-shirt cannons and this and that. And you know what? Maybe they are. Maybe I'm just not like in the area that they're doing it, because obviously the Rockies Stadium is much bigger than the minor league teams. So maybe I'm just oblivious to it, but it does feel like they're doing a lot more fun stuff at the minor league games outside of the baseball itself. But with that said, that was what we did Tuesday. I think we did that, and then we went up and got in the pool and hot tub, which was, again, the pool and hot tub and common areas and gym and the amenities were very, very nice at this place that we stayed. So that was very cool. I will say it was a little stressful checking out of this place, or just checking in, checking out, kind of the stuff, because it was pretty expensive to stay in a nice place like this, which makes sense. But then they're like, hey, make sure to put up the keys and parking pass back into the lockbox, which makes sense. Nothing against that, obviously. But they're like, if you don't put them in the correct lockbox, or if you don't put them back, it's $300 fine for each. So, like, if you were to mess up and not put the keys and parking pass back in, they're like $600, which is just like, dude, that stresses me out. And they're like, send a picture, and it's just one of those things where you're like, well, what if I put it in and then forget to take a picture, and then they claim that I didn't put it back in, and there's no proof from a picture, then you're out $600. I don't know. That was just kind of like something that made me not want to give them 5 stars on the Airbnb, which I gave them 5 stars, but I talked about it in the last podcast. There were plenty of things that were kind of frustrating with a nice Airbnb that you're paying a bunch of money for, where like it must have been a new Airbnb, because they were all over the place with their directions and their questions and things like that. But I digress. That was Tuesday night. That was fun. Wednesday, we went to the Wise Guys open mic, which is the comedy club there in Salt Lake. They do, I guess, an open mic every Wednesday. And that was very fun as well. We went to, it was like less than a mile from our apartment. The apartment, again, was very close to kind of everything in the downtown area, which was convenient. So we went there and got to see the club for the first time. Went in. It gave off very similar vibes to the South Club, the Comedy Works South Club here in Denver, in the sense that if you're familiar, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, the South Club is it's in like the Denver Tech Center area, kind of a higher income area and more affluent area, I guess, just more money. But this place, I mean, it was downtown, but the vibes of it inside, they had like a lounge area and I think a restaurant maybe, and that's very similar to the South Club, where like, there's a big kind of restaurant area and it's like this fancy setup, and then you walk in the back and go into the actual showroom. And we get there, and like pretty much 5 minutes before the show's starting, I'm just guessing, but I would assume that room holds maybe 250 people, if I had to guess. And like 5 minutes before showtime, I don't know, there was 20 people in there. And, you're thinking, okay, all these are comics, so it's basically just the comics here. But fast forward like 10 minutes, as the show's starting, it fills in quite a bit. And there's probably like 100 people there. So it was a fun crowd. It was a good time. Everybody did 3 minutes. Got to do a set there. Delina did a set. Both did very well. And then we hung out for a couple minutes and then went back to the apartment. Mostly because I had to fly out at a 5:30 flight. So I had to get up at like 3 a.m. to go to the airport. And boy, let me tell you what, Thursday, which is the day of the flight back to Denver, very long day. I mean, one of the longest days I've had in a long, long time. I've talked about it before, but like the importance of staying healthy with exercise and diet and sleep, super, super important. And this was just one of those days where it was like, I'm not going to be able to get a lot of sleep just because of a flight. And usually you go, okay, that's okay because I won't get much sleep, but as soon as I get home, I'll just sleep and nap. But I couldn't. So I couldn't, get to sleep I couldn't because I had to work when I got back. So to break it down for you, I wanted to go to bed kind of early, but just due to the circumstances getting back from Wise Guys to the apartment, and then I ate and ate at like 9:30, 10. So then you're like, okay, I still got stuff in my stomach. We cleaned the apartment. We had to like put stuff in the washer dryer and in the dishwasher, and just kind of making sure we're going through the checklist to have everything completed because we're getting up at like 3 a.m. and not trying to do everything at that point. But then I couldn't get to sleep. A, probably because I just eaten, but also B, just, when you've got like a really early morning flight or something that you are like not stressed about in the sense of like, I don't want to sleep through the alarm, then it's just harder to sleep. And so I barely slept. I mean, it was like very interrupted, not good sleep for 4 hours. So probably didn't get that much sleep. Woke up like just sweaty and uncomfortable. And so got up about 3:20 maybe. Went to the airport. Took that flight back to Denver. Got into Denver like 6:30. Had a buddy, friend of the pod, Ethan Everhart, pick me up from the airport. Appreciate that. That's always super helpful. He picked me up. He brought me to my place. I had to work all day. So worked from home, was very tired, but got to do what you got to do. But then here's the kicker, guys. Here's the thing. The reason I knew it was going to be a really tough day. Ended up being a great day, but I was worried, and it definitely had me tired for a couple days after that. But on Thursday, I headlined a show at Stella's Pinball Arcade and Lounge, I think it's called, in Greeley. And I was very excited for that. It was it was my first time, my first time headlining, like kind of a more legitimate headlining a show, locally. I mean, Greeley's not Denver, but it's local-ish. An hour-ish away from Denver, and so I was very excited for that. But I was also kind of worried because I had barely gotten any sleep, flew from Salt Lake City to Denver, had to work all day. And then this show, it wasn't like a 7 o'clock show, it's a 9 o'clock show. And because I'm headlining, I'm not going on stage until like 10 or a little after 10. So, yeah, I'm just tired throughout the day. And I drive up, get there like 8:30. I'm feeling like, okay, I'm very tired, but, this is what it is. Sometimes with comedy, a lot of times with comedy, you're going to not be feeling great for whatever reason that is, whether it's you didn't get enough sleep or you just feel anxious or down for whatever reason, or you just went, life, whatever things happen in life, you guys get it. Sometimes you just feel off and not great and not chipper. And, but that's what it is. And so I looked at it as kind of like a challenge, or not even a challenge, but I looked at it as, hey man, this is something that's going to happen, and you just got to figure out how to rise to the occasion. And I feel like I did that. It was a very fun show. The crowd was filled out. They were into the jokes. Everybody before me did very well. So I was like, okay, if I don't do well, then that's probably because I really did poorly. But that wasn't the case. I felt comfortable up there. I did 30 minutes, which, some people go, well, it's not headlining unless you do 45 minutes. I get it. It wasn't a 45-minute set. It was a 30-minute set, But 30 minutes is about as long as a headlining set that is available for local shows in Denver for headliners. Headliners are usually doing in between 20 to 30, I would say. I mean, a lot of shows are showcase style, meaning everybody does 10 or 15 minutes. I don't consider, obviously, there's no headliner on that show. Even if you go last, I don't consider that headlining, nor should you. But yeah, most of the shows locally for the headliners are doing 20 to 30 minutes. So doing 30 minutes at the end of a show was an exciting thing to do. Felt good. I brought what I could as far as energy. I'm not a super high energy guy, and I was very tired, but I felt in the moment. I did the jokes. There were there's certainly things that I learned, and as you start headlining and getting reps there, you learn the longer form things that you can do. I noticed there's certainly some jokes within my 30 minutes that aren't as good, which obviously makes sense. You're always going to have jokes that are your best jokes, and then some jokes that are good but not your best, and then some jokes that you're like, okay, they could be better. But with that said, I feel very comfortable and confident with my 30 minutes now. I know that it can always get better, certainly, but I don't feel like I have jokes in there that aren't jokes, if that makes sense. In the past, I've done 30-minute sets or longer where I thought that I had, the time, and in reality, I had just remembered 30 minutes of words to say into a microphone, where a lot of that time was not actual jokes, if that makes sense. Now, they're all jokes, but there's certainly you can tell like the difference between your best jokes and some of the jokes that were in there that weren't getting as much. I don't think any joke like fully got nothing. I think they were laughing throughout the entire thing. But if I'm being just self-critical and looking at it for what it was and looking at ways to improve, there's certainly portions in there where you go, okay, this is losing a little bit of steam and momentum because it's just not as good of a joke. Got to do, as fortunately I did a couple headlining and longer sets with the tour that I did a couple weeks ago, which prepped me well for this to go into a longer set. A, having just the set list kind of memorized in the order, but also B, for the first time on that tour that I did, I implemented a merch pitch into my set. Now I didn't sell merch at this gig at Stella's in Greeley, but I did pitch my sticker that has my Instagram handle on it. I wasn't trying to sell them. I was like, hey, it's absolutely free. If you guys want to grab one, come do it. It's got my Instagram handle on it. I'm trying to get my Instagram numbers up. And it's just an added element to your comedy set, which kind of takes reps of doing the thing to get it in there and comfortable. And I felt good, doing all my jokes. And then before I did my closer, I was like, hey, another round of applause for yourselves and for Stella's for doing this show. Before I get out of here, I got a couple more minutes. But just want to mention, I'll have some stickers with my Instagram if you guys want to come grab it. What I forgot to do, two things. I forgot to plug the podcast, which I need to do. Plug the podcast, Ben. Stop being a loser. But I need to do that moving forward. Forgot to do that. But also with the Instagram, I felt really dumb because I said, hey, come grab a sticker. It's got my Instagram on it. And instead, what I didn't do was I didn't say my Instagram. I should have just said my Instagram is Ben Dailey Comedy. Follow me. Come grab a sticker if you want. It's got it on there. But, either way, please follow me on Instagram. I forgot to do that. So that there's things to adjust and improve there. But did that, did my closer. Felt very good. Very appreciative to Jared there, who runs the show at Stella's for giving me the opportunity to headline. Appreciate that very much. Truly is not something I take for granted, and that, means a lot to me that he gave me the opportunity. And want to keep working on getting opportunities like that. Working hard to hopefully show people that I'm capable of doing that, and then just keep improving from there. So that was a very good, fun show. I recorded it, which it's a good. I used an old camera. I didn't use anything nice, but the lighting and setup of that room is so good that the recording came out pretty good, I think. Which is awesome because to submit and to reach out to a bunch of these clubs and stuff in different parts of the country, you want to send them usually you send like a short, maybe 5-minute tape to be like, here's a little quick tape that you can see of me, but also here's a longer tape so they can see, that you're capable of doing a longer set, because ultimately that's what you're reaching out to them. If you're like, hey, I would like to feature or headline at your club, you need to prove to them that you have the time and you can do that. So I was excited to record that and to have a 30-minute tape now, which I've done plenty of 30-minute sets, but just whether it wasn't a good crowd or whether I didn't film it or whatever the case is, I just don't have that many 30-minute tapes available. And so I think this one finally is like, okay, this is a good video. Video quality is pretty good. The audio quality, not incredible, but not terrible. So I think that's good enough. So now I think I can send that out to clubs and places, and I have a 30-minute tape that I can submit. So I'm excited for that. That was Thursday. The drive back, the show ended, 10:30, 11. Drive back was like an hour and 15. I was very tired, man. I was really fighting that delusional tired kind of the last 30 minutes of the drive. You're like, all right, shaking your head, smacking your face, turning the AC on, putting the windows down. But I got back. It was probably close to 1 a.m. by the time I got back, and then I had to work the next day on Friday. And I was thinking, it's funny because in my head I go, all right, well, I'm running on about 3-4 hours of sleep. It's been a super long day, but tonight I'm going to get 6 hours of sleep. And you go, well, that's a good improvement, so I should feel good tomorrow. Incorrect. Wrong. I felt so tired. I got like 6 hours of sleep, and I felt really run down on Friday. So worked throughout the day and hosted a Don't Tell Friday night. And I just felt like it's one of those where you're like, man, I don't have the energy. I really don't want to go do comedy tonight because I just want a nap. Like my body needs to catch up on rest. But did the show, the Don't Tell show beforehand. Went and got some coconut water, chugged that down. I think that helped. Got those electrolytes in my body and brain. But the show was at a hotel, rooftop hotel situation. I've done this location before. Very fun. The show was very fun. I had a lot of fun. I felt really comfortable and good with my host set. Everybody else on the show did very well. It was a very fun room. It usually is. Felt good. Again, little amount of sleep, kind of lower energy leading into it. Again, it's one of those things. It's like, hey man, this is going to happen if you want to do this as a full-time job and really commit to being as good of a comedian as possible. There's going to be times where you're tired or whatever, and you just have to rise to the occasion. You have to muster the energy and the charisma and the vibe and whatever you got to do to make it work while you're on stage. And I felt really good about that. So that was Friday night. And then Saturday night, I didn't do much Saturday. I slept in and I kind of just lounged on the couch all of Saturday, which was nice to be able to do that. But Saturday evening, had another show, was hosting a show, a local show at Emporium Brewing, a brewery here in Denver. Hosted that, and that was great as well. It was a free show. I've done a couple there now at this point, and it's always been fun, and it was fun again. As we go into summer, a lot of people are doing stuff outside, and comedy historically, not just this year, but historically is just like tough in the summer because people want to get outside rather than going inside and, sitting still and listening to somebody tell jokes. But it was pretty filled out. It wasn't as full as maybe like last time, but it was a good crowd. There's probably 40 people there. I'm really bad at guesstimating numbers, but that's probably pretty accurate. And super fun show. Yeah. It was, a little bit tighter of a crowd up top than like the Don't Tell crowd on Friday. But the Don't Tell crowds a lot of times are like cheating. It's like they're on board right away, which is the exception, not the general vibe of when you're hosting. Usually you're like, hey, my job is to kind of really get you guys on board. A lot of times with Don't Tell shows, it's just a comedy crowd and they're like laughing right away. But no, I felt good and comfortable with my host set at Emporium. The show was great. All the comics did very well. And yeah, it was super fun. It feels good. I'm feeling, I've said this before, and it with comedy or anything, it feels very much like, hey, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I'm sure, I'll go through periods moving forward where I'm like, oh, I feel a little out of sync, blah, blah, blah. But I feel and have felt very comfortable and confident with not just hosting, but my stand-up in general, my energy that I'm bringing on stage, my confidence, my ability to, be like, hey, I'm up here and I should be up here and I know what I'm doing. So that feels really good. Feels good to feel the improvement. Again, all the stuff I've talked about with eating healthy and diet and exercise and sleep as well. But even as I mentioned with the little amount of sleep going up there, feeling kind of off, but also just doing comedy for the length I've done now, I think I'm starting to get into a point where I try to do as much as I can to keep my body healthy. There's going to be times where I don't get enough sleep or this or that. But with the experience and just amount of reps I've gotten, I think I'm getting closer to the point where it's like my consistency on stage is just better and better, and I'm able to entertain a crowd more consistently and feel comfortable and confident internally, which is, that's the main thing. If it's a hot crowd, you can go up there and you're like, I don't feel comfortable at all, but they just like the jokes and I just did the jokes. That's best case scenario. A lot of times it's not that. You got to go up there, especially when you're hosting, and if it's like a tight crowd or they're not laughing right away, you got to be the man up there. You got to be the confident, like, hey, this is my show that I'm setting up and running for you guys. And let me take that back. I don't look at it as like, when I'm a host, I don't look at it as this is my show. I look at it as I'm trying to set the show up for the other people. But as the host, you do need to command and be in charge of the room, to be like, hey, everybody, we're going to have a good time tonight. Please don't heckle. Please don't do this, but we're going to have a good time. I'm establishing the rules. I'm getting you guys on board. I'm telling you some jokes to get you laughing, and then I'm going to send it off to the other comics, and we're going to have a good time. So in charge in that sense. But feels good to feel a lot more comfortable in that realm. That was Saturday. Today's Sunday. Again, I'm probably going to chill. I might try to go for a run. The pool is right outside there. I don't know. Maybe I'll lay out. Probably going to eat some lunch after this. Take it easy. I don't know. I gotta write some new jokes. I got some new jokes cooking that I just really need to work out. I'm going to try to hit some mics moving forward to work that material out. I've got some fun stuff coming up. I've got a trip to Kansas this Friday. I'm doing a show in Wichita on Friday, the June 14th, I think. And then June 16th in Kansas City, doing Knuckleheads. Going out there with Ethan Everhart. Should be a fun time. Going to do that. Then coming back the weekend after that, I think I'm hosting a couple Don't Tells. And, just staying busy, working through some new jokes, just trying to get better and better every day, getting the reps in, working the jokes out, getting that longer set together, and really building the act. I haven't gotten anything set in stone yet, but I really want to later this year try to set up with like a local videographer in a local venue, filming a 30-minute, everybody calls it specials, whatever you want to call it, but 30 minutes of material that I can record via video and audio. I want to record it in like a professional way. I've been saving a bunch of money, try to put some money down to really make this a professional piece of my art, quote unquote. To then be able to maybe pitch to a record label, put out an album, hopefully be able to get a credit of like #1 iTunes album or whatever, and really hope to get some momentum from there to be able to then have kind of a collection of things to be able to send to clubs and hopefully get a little more traction on that end to just keep little by little moving up the ladder to making this a full-time job. So with that said, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys for listening. I hope this was enjoyable. If not, tell me. If it was, let me know. Also, if you have made it this long to the very end and you're still listening, please leave a comment. Leave a comment on YouTube, or you can on Spotify as well. Again, I can't reply to Spotify comments, but if the question is, if I were to record like 30 minutes of comedy in a professional way and put that out, is that something that you guys would be interested in seeing? And if so, is that something that you guys would pay money? Like if I were to be like, hey, it's $10 to buy this, would you be interested in buying? Whether it's interest due to you wanting to see the comedy, or whether it's you would pay $10 just to support me in my pursuit of having a career in the silly field of comedy. But yeah, let me know if that's something you would be interested in. I'm certainly, whether you're interested or not, I'm going to do it. So I guess I hope you're interested. I hope that's something people would want to see. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. Again, thank you guys for tuning in this week and hearing me ramble. And I'll see you guys again next week.